Okay, people, it's 8 o'clock. I'll call the meeting of the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District Commission to order for the 13th of August. So we have present in the room Commissioners Clark, Lankella, Havel, Lytle, Paltz, and Bookland. And so we have 3 commissioners absent today. There's no commissioners participating virtually. So people can keep track of that if you're watching. Welcome to all of our guests. And Lynn's going to do the virtual meeting guidance today.
Good morning, commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you're attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be. Finally, commissioners, please use your microphone while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you are not speaking, please ensure your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. As a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Any announcements? No announcements. We have a welcome, Steve Gerard. Bettina, well, it looks like...
Not Bettina. Bill Walker's going to do this morning. It's my pleasure to welcome Stephen Gerard today. He is joining us as our IT operations lead, and I'm going to summarize this, I know incorrectly, as the fixer in IT. Problems go to him, and he makes things easier for Bettina. So Stephen comes to us, well, Stephen originally studied at UW La Crosse in biology, which is a jump, similar to the kind of jumps I made in my life. Discovered when working at Geek Squad that IT was his future, and then put together a career in contracting, spent 4 years in Switzerland learning Swiss German and doing IT support for mergers and acquisitions for a lot of large businesses. Wanted to come back to the United States, home, and a better place, frankly, and joined Exact Sciences' IT team. Outside of work, Stephen's interests are in literature, fantasy, and science fiction in particular, cooking, and like me, running, although he has accomplished 3 marathons where all I've accomplished is a couple half marathons. Please welcome Stephen.
Okay, any appearances by the public? Don't see any. Excuse me. That will take us to the consent calendar. We have the approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting on the 30th of July. Cash statement capital, annexation for Heyday Wanakee, then approval of sanitary sewer extensions, including the Heyday, and then 3 others. Review of bids and award of purchases, liquid emulsion polymer, acceptance of heat and power improvements facilities plan, approved transaction amount Lagoon Dykes, Lagoon 2, Phase 1. Saw some equipment out there biking in this morning. Do we have anybody have any questions on any of the items? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Commissioner Clark, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by
Lankella.
Second by Commissioner Lankella. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. That will take us to the topic today, which is the project update Biosolids facilities plan.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ana Oraj-Stefanko. I'm a planning engineer here at the district, and today I'll present on project updates for the Biosolids facilities plan. Today's presentation will cover some project background, main project drivers, why are we doing this project, what was included in the project scope, recommendations and preferred alternative that was chosen. Then I'll go over the benefits from the chosen alternative, reasons behind the preferred consolidation for the Biosolids and Heat and Power project, and what would be the next steps. So just as a refresher, this map shows the solids management infrastructure overview. It's a high picture. Denoted in red is all the infrastructure that is included in the biosolids management, which includes the sludge digestion, metro growth storage tanks, biosolids end-use facility and dewatering, and the vehicle loading building. And what is denoted in yellow, it's not included in the project, but I just wanted to show you a reminder, where do we get the sludge from that it's being processed. So the primary sludge from the primary clarifiers, and then waste-activated sludge from the final clarifiers. This is a good image to show the magnitude of this project and what's included. So in the past, the district in 2010 conducted or completed the solids handling facilities plan. And this facilities plan evaluated the solids handling system over the period for 20 years. Back then in 2010, also this facilities plan proposed to the district to look into the need for the future for capacity expansion, so storage capacity. So that was done back then. And then in 2021, the district completed the biosolids management plan, which assessed different strategies and identified different steps regarding the biosolids product. So what are the main project drivers? There are three main ones why we need to do this. The most important is the storage capacity. The district current under average condition can provide about 175 days of storage capacity, while the legal requirement for wastewater treatment facilities is that facilities should provide at least 180 days of storage capacity. So those are under average condition. We are in compliance, but we are there. It's a challenge for the district. What ties into that is the amount of biosolids that we are producing, ties into the load out and hauling. The more biosolids we're producing, the greater the load out and hauling capacity needs to be. And then the third reason tied into both of those, we need more acreage to actually be able to land apply. Currently, we are using about 7,000 acres of land to apply our biosolids. A reminder from 7 years ago of the challenges that we cannot control, which is they're weather related. So in 2019, extended wet fall weather and early winter created the need for additional storage, and the district had to work with the Dane County landfill, coordinate to dewater more biosolids and then landfill there to meet the 2020 storage needs. But this is not a preferred option, and it was something that we had to work with to kind of solve the challenge. What was included in the project scope? I would say the project scope can be divided in two main parts. The first one is the capacity and condition assessment and asset replacement. This is a similar map that was shown at the beginning of the presentation, but I just wanted to show color-coded processes that are included, so they're interconnected. Denoted with red is the primary sludge management. Orange is the waste-activated sludge management. The blue is the sludge digestion and thickening. And then we have purple metro growth storage and vehicle loading building. And last, the green sludge storage, dewatering, and end-use building. So a lot of infrastructure is included in this project. It's worth noting that in terms of asset replacement, we evaluated that it's connected to the sludge and biosolids operation is approximately 1,390 assets, so it's a large amount. The second part of the project is related, the project scope is related to the sludge management alternative evaluation. The district looked into 6 alternatives and looked into their technical and process analysis, cost estimates, and non-monetary drivers. The estimated capital costs for all 6 alternatives range from $88 million to all the way to $215 million. And the preferred alternative recommended and chosen was to produce Class A liquid biosolids, which had the highest overall ranking of non-monetary and other project drivers with an estimated capital cost of $107 million. Now, I would like to emphasize the $88 million, I would say the lowest capital cost refers to an alternative to keep the operation as they are, but we would still have to construct a fourth Metro Growth storage tanks to meet our storage needs. But everything else with the operation would stay the same. And also we would have to do other infrastructure upgrades that I'll show later.
The 88 million is to keep the current Class B product,
That's correct.
and to move to Class A is 107 million, so,
That's correct.
and, it includes the 88 million that we'd have to do anyway.
88 million is just the capital cost for the, to keep the operation, and add the fourth storage tank.
Right,
That's for the alternative.
right. Do we need to do that even with the Class A?
There are other costs associated, I'm gonna show at the end
No,
of
I
the table.
realize that,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to get the idea that there's regardless of what we do, we have to do something.
Exactly.
So we have to add a fourth storage tank with the Class A.
That's the correct.
and
No,
you-
not
you
with
don't.
Class A, no.
Oh,
I'm
you
gonna
don't?
come to the
Okay.
benefits, towards the
Okay.
end of the presentation.
So,
But if we wanna keep the operation as they are, we have to, invest or spend $88 million.
Right.
Yeah.
right, so I thought maybe that 88 was included in the 107. So I'd like to know when you get, if maybe you cover it, is what part of that 107 would probably have to be done anyway, because I'm sure there's something that we're doing with Class A that we still would have had to do with Class
I'm gonna show the cost breakdown
Okay.
towards the end, yeah.
A. Okay.
Thank you. So this is a simplified, process schematic of the Class A liquid biosolids, so the preferred alternative. In short, the biosolids and sludge would be dewatered. It would go into the reactor, which the process is called thermochemical hydrolysis process. Potassium hydroxide and steam would be injected, and it would thermally and chemically break down the biosolids to obtain the Class A liquid biosolids. This product would have a higher mass content, 3 times that Class B has now, so less water, the volume would decrease, and I'm going to talk about the benefits of this alternative. Okay, so what are the benefits of the chosen alternative? Just to clarify, the green check mark essentially denoting here that we are solving for the 3 main drivers that were presented at the beginning of the presentation. With this alternative, the district would give 350 to 400 days of storage capacity, and this is without needing to construct a fourth Metro Growth storage tanks. This is the process itself. So we would keep the 3 storages, and additionally, with producing Class A, we would obtain additional storage. Then to your right, the Class A liquid is a much higher quality product. It has less pathogens and lower nitrogen, about 1/3 that we have today. Lower nitrogen would allow us to apply more biosolids to the land, so this is a big thing. And then at the lower hauling trips would be decreased for about 2/3 because we would have less product, store more, so it would be better operation management. Some other benefits that I would like to highlight, because of injection of potassium hydroxide, the product would have highest potassium, which is a good nutrient for agriculture and potentially some savings for the farmers. They would not have to purchase it. Hauling and land application costs would be reduced, and also we would be able to use the existing hauling, transfer, and application equipment. And then why preferred consolidation of the 2 projects? Well, simply because it makes sense to do, because there's a lot of synergy between the 2 in terms of infrastructure and processes. They are interconnected, and it would be better and more effective to do it together. This map just shows the placement of the infrastructure and the updates that would be planned to be done for both, so for the consolidated project. So denoted in red is the infrastructure that will be maintained with used with modification. What is denoted in yellow refers to the biosolids part of the project. The green is the heat and power, and then the orange is infrastructure that maybe now be required or would be repurposed. And also from the planning standpoint, we looked into the logical placement of future infrastructure, which is not included in the project, but is denoted with the dashed purple lines. And now to the cost. This is the cost estimate from the draft Biosolids facilities plan. I will go through the breakdown. So if you can see, it's the fourth line item where it says digestion, storage, and land application in the amount of $107,328,000. This refers to the Class A biosolids alternative capital cost. And then we have asset replacement, almost $32 million, and other infrastructure by processes. The other cost is related to the condition. So the first part of the project scope, the condition and capacity assessment and needs for improvements that we would have to do. With all the other alternatives, we would have to do the same improvements as stated in this table. The only difference would be in the chosen alternative, as I noted in the fourth line item. So we would have the primary sludge management as part of the condition capacity assessment, the screening, the waste activated sludge, and other improvements that are listed here. So the total biosolids cost estimate in 2026 dollars comes to $184,119,000. And if we look at combined with heat and power improvements, the total project cost estimate for in 2026 dollars comes a little bit under $223 million. So what would be the next steps? Would be to hold a public hearing now in September, and then we would submit the facilities plan to the DNR for approval. Once we would obtain the approval letter, we would come here to request formal acceptance. And additional information that in the 2027 capital improvements plan draft, now it shows that the design for the consolidated project is planned to begin in 2027 to continue through 2029 with construction for now scheduled 2030 to 2030. Thank you. Take any questions?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you for the presentation, really clear, and it's nice to get an update on this. It's a huge project for the district, and I'm wondering what's the life expectancy of the entire project? I mean, how long do we think it'll be before we need to do any upgrades or any additions? That's my first question. The second one is, what about PFAS? Because concentrating the sludge and getting the water out is going to increase the PFAS per, parts per trillion or whatever. So what are we thinking about as far as that? Because it possibly could get us into regulatory issues as far as putting down the sludge on agriculture land. So what are we kind of thinking about that?
So the project life, typically the assessment is done for 20 years to 2050. For the PFAS, where we also looked at for advanced treatment technologies that would potentially need it in the future, we also looked at those and analyzed. There is not much effect with any of the alternatives that we evaluated currently to change that would affect, but that would have to be done through advanced treatment separately.
So the heating and the potassium hydroxide isn't expected to have any effect on the PFAS concentration, other than just to kind of...
It affects the quality just of the biosolids as a fertilizer product, right? To lower the pathogens, lower the nitrogen, some of these, so increase overall quality, but none of the alternative have a significant impact on that would have to be done through some destruction technologies that we looked and for the future treatment.
So I'm just kind of thinking ahead, So we're going to have this Class A biosolids sludge that potentially will have higher PFAS concentrations. So do we have any plans or thinking about what we might do about that?
Well, so first off, this is facility plan, so this is us choosing an alternative to continue to design with. But for PFAS specifically, without any regulations that are going to restrict what we do, we're already at $110 million. And some of those other alternatives, we designed, and I'm going to let Anna talk about this in a second, but we reviewed those to know that what we're trying to build now would not have to be tore out to do something else, like if we have to address PFAS. But bottom line for me is if we do get a PFAS ban or some sort of very low number that we can't meet, all bets are off, because we're talking about incineration or destruction that is totally different than we're doing now.
Yeah, and the cost for that is going to be exorbitant, you know, to do anything like that. So, you know, I just think keep looking into, you know, what technologies might be coming down the road that we could work to address that, because we aren't the only district, you know, with this issue. You know, so I'm just, you know, concerned about, you know, the future and PFAS and upcoming regulations and potential, you know, getting us into a situation that, you know, we just need to be, you know, have our eyes on it.
I think the immediate, well, first of all, one question is, with the facilities plan, then you have to go to the other steps. Would the first year of possible approval of construction or design, I should say design, if, you know, if this keeps going through the process?
What year would be?
Yeah.
In 2027.
2027,
Yeah, so next
it's only
year.
a year away.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the biggest issue that you brought up is this concentration of PFAS, and that's going to be in the liquid. So, because you're concentrating the liquid, I think by almost 2/3, it sounded like.
Yeah.
So Marty Griffin has helped with some answers here. His response is the list tech says the concentration of PFAS would not change from the levels that we have now. So in the biosolids. So with the current
Intuitively,
guidance,
that doesn't make sense, but
Equivalently, it's pulled out two directions, so the other stuff that I don't know where that's going, the extra liquid, that's gonna have PFAS at the same level, I'm assuming that. If you came in with 100 and you go keeping it the same, it's still gonna be 100 someplace. So I'm guessing the whatever that technology is, that has PFAS in it too. Or some people think it's just water, which it wouldn't be. Yes, I mean, somehow it doesn't evaporate.
The thermochemical process potentially degrades PFAS compound, right, in the reactor to a non, I would say, dangerous compound. So some parts thermochemically can be degraded to some part and keep the levels as they are.
So then some is eliminated through a process, some is eliminated just at a level.
I think with this kind of discussion, we should come back with another topic and explain this a little deeper.
Thank you. Commissioner Lytle, do you mind going back to the cost breakdown slide? So I was just curious, I know we've talked about the pros and cons of bundling large facilities, projects, and the estimates here for the heat and power improvements versus the biosolids. Are those estimates developed assuming the projects would be delivered separately? Would we anticipate any economies of scale, any cost savings by bundling in the way we have planned, such that we might see definitely no expectations that we're going to guess what inflation is going to do between 2026 and 2030, but is part of that decision driven by some hope or data that would expect the bundling of those two projects' capital costs to achieve some efficiencies?
It's, I would say it is, these costs that are presented here as bundling the two projects and doing them together, right? And it's expected that, the cost savings would be, 10 to 15%, because if you're doing construction separately and then you're coming back and then the inflation, right, in the future, those things are taken into consideration. But these costs here are combined, projects doing them, together, consolidated.
And can you refresh my memory as to how recently the plan shifted to combining heat and power and biosolids?
It shifted throughout the development of the biosolids facilities plan when we started looking into all of the infrastructure that it's, I would say that there's a lot of synergy and that it's connected. So, for example, some of the buildings like in the Metro Grow and the dewatering building is connected on the hot water loop. In the heat and power improvements, we are planning to decentralize the system, so remove. So a lot of assets and infrastructure is, I would say, touched by both projects. So it makes sense to do it once, not to come back and then do another project and do it again later.
That all makes sense, thank you. I think it's just an opportunity to, as we present projects of this scale to the communities, I think it's good to identify that, even if we can't quantify it to a specific level, to say that by going this route of bundling these two projects, we expect to see reduced total capital costs, and part of the motivation of moving these projects into one.
I think you said that it'll reduce, I don't know if I understood you correctly, the land application by 2/3, or is it 1/3?
Land application, currently we are using about 7,000 acres, and it's expected to go down to maybe 5,500 acres of land. Yes, but because the nitrogen is lower by 1/3, it would allow us to apply more biosolids, depending on the crops, right? Requirements. So.
Okay. And when they looked at this, did they look into the situation of how we're seeing reduced property available? I know we can apply more to more to property line, right? Because it's Class A versus B, you don't have back. But did they look at how, say, as one example, suburban sprawl is reducing our near farm areas? That helps it, but
it helps on the higher planning level. It's actually the numbers that I can give. It's estimated that for the future, if we keep maintaining the current operation, we would need 2,000 to 3,000 acres more as the biosolids production increases. So those are some of the reasons, and then additional storage capacity, benefits from that, and less hauling. So all of those are the things that kind of enforced the choice of the Class A.
So just one other question. You looked at the Class B, you looked at this Class A. I don't know what all the six were, but was one of them going to something like a bulk, continuing with our cake, or going with the what I call the Milorganite option?
So other three alternatives included one Class A cake, another Class B cake, and then we had Class A drying, also getting a more solid product. But it's not really acceptable by farmers because the application, and why I didn't present those options, those were the most expensive ones. So the capital cost for those was over $160 million, and then one was 214, close to 215, and then another one was $160 million. So the options that we had to do, operations that we are doing now, and we looked at into Class A, what I presented.
Those total costs then What you'd have to add on that other 80, I'm sure a lot of that stuff would still be needed, so you'd be
That is-
adding in that other $80 million.
That is correct. So the the line item 4, which refers to the alternative, everything, other breakdown refers to the capacity and condition assessment, so all of the other improvements that we would have to do, to make the operation, reliable long-term, and improvements that had to be done due to age and condition and.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Thank you. That will take us to the Executive Director report.
All right, thank you. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. I have 2 reports today, or 2 topics. First one is quick budget update. So I presented earlier for the commission that the goal was going to be within 10 to 12% for our service charge increase. I can tell you we are still working on it, but we are getting closer to final numbers, and I can tell you we're going to be around that 12%. So I just wanted to give some warning on that. We do have a customer community meeting coming up next week, August 20th. I've already been in contact with quite a few customer communities on this, and we are working on answering their questions on that too, and we'll use that information also with the commission. Still work to be done on this with the goal of getting to the final presentation in September, the first meeting in September. There will be choices for the commission in that based on reserves. So we set a new reserve policy for the district, and the lever, I don't want to overspeak here, but the lever here on some of this decision-making is on how comfortable the commission is with reserve levels. So just wanted to give some pre-warning on that, month ahead, but wanted to do that. And then the second one, a little better news, is part of the packet. On the slide, we have the NACWA, the National Association of Clean Water Agencies. We got the gold award this year. So this is one of the KPI reporting topics that we have. So wanted to highlight that. We are gold. We are aiming for platinum, which means 5 years in a row of achieving gold. But there's our target, which is platinum. What we're at is gold. I wanted to announce that and congratulate the staff who made this happen. So, thank you.
Nice to hear. Dan?
Question for Eric. When you do the presentation to the communities, can you say the 12% that, 3% is for operations, but 10% is for, because if you sell it that way better versus saying, I think everything's going up 12%, which would be known.
Noted, and we're already working on that. Yeah, so the customer communities have asked for detailed math. The general conversation is about we do this business also, so you can get a little more technical with us. So yeah, our goal is to try to detail that out for them. Thank you.
Okay. That will take us to the capital project update.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Lisa Coleman, the Engineering Manager, and I'm here today to provide the capital projects update. Just a note out the gate here, in the calendar that y'all have developed for the Commission coming up next year, we've changed the cadence of these to twice per year, so the next time you see me will be January to talk about this. But obviously, it's to suit your needs. So if you want to change that cadence, just let Eric know. I can talk about projects all day. So, all right. Next slide. Oh, the new clicker. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so here's what I'm planning to talk about today. And the resource team has wisely added a legend onto slides from our previous ones, just to kind of especially since we'll be having some new commissioners joining us, just so we're a little bit clearer about what we're talking about here. So that is a good add, I think. So what we're planning to talk about today is a status update on the various projects in planning, design, and construction. And then I'll touch on projects completed and bids received this year. And then I'll talk about a couple of project highlights. So you know that I like to talk about the pictures on the slide. So the first one here is, I'll call it an after picture through the ravine area at Lower Badger Mill Creek Phase 6. So there's, you can't see it, but there's a pipe under the ground here, and you can just see in the foreground the casting of one of the manhole covers with the, you can see the green paint on it there. So that's what that picture is. After pictures are always exciting. Correct. Correct. It actually is a little bit further up the ravine from just, it's not right off Shady Oak, but a little bit, kind of midway through the ravine, I'd say. Sure is. All right, so on to planning projects. So with the stoplight colors here sort of indicating how it's going. At the treatment plant, we have the laboratory remodel for which a planning study was done previously, and now we're working on an RFP for a detailed design for that. Next, we have the Biosolids facility plan, which I won't talk about because Anna just did a great job summarizing what's happening there. For interceptors, we have the Southeast Interceptor McFarland Relief Rehabilitation. That's great because we haven't started work on that yet. You see a new project below that, which is South Interceptor replacement at John Nolan Drive. So that's sort of what you see on your slide is John Nolan Drive. You can see just in the far lower left, Willow Island at the Alliant Energy Center, where's Bratfest, if that gives you any idea where you are there. So, so we are starting to work with the city on that project. The city is planning reconstruction of John Nolan Drive along that reach, and we see an opportunity there to replace our crossing of John Nolan Drive, which is, our crossing is the South Interceptor, so the blue line there. And the advantage there is then we can use the overall traffic control setup that the city has when they're doing their reconstruction project. So that project is a little ways out, but as you can imagine, it's a big project, so we're starting to work on planning that. And our pipe crossing there is a 24-inch asbestos cement pipe installed in 1967. So, you know, we're starting to see some issues with our asbestos cement pipes, and 1967 is a little bit even older than me, so it's time to start thinking about replacing that crossing. Also, just to note, this isn't listed on the slide because it wasn't in our CAP, but we're also working with a potential developer at the old Coliseum Bar site and the Wonder Bar site, so they are looking to redevelop that site. That development sort of pops up, comes and goes, and it seems like it's maybe on again, so we're working with them because they are looking to replace our, move our interceptor across their parcel so that they have room to do what they want to do with their development. So still in initial discussions there, but that's related nearby project so a couple things happening there along John Nolan Drive.
On the asbestos cement, is there special requirements required for removal of the pipe, or?
I believe there are, as far as like disposal.
Yeah, okay.
I believe there are.
Removal since it's airborne.
Yep.
Type of thing.
It's generally not a problem construction-wise because we're kind of pulling the pipe apart at joints, so we're not, you know, grinding it up into small bits or anything like that. So construction-wise, it doesn't really present a lot of issues.
I'm just surprised they're still using it.
All right. And then down to pumping stations and force mains at the bottom. The pumping station 11 and 12 surge valve access platform, our collection system group is working on that. They're hoping to get a solicitation for design services out, posted towards the end of the year. And then for pumping station 2 force main condition assessment, that one is a little behind schedule, showing that as yellow. The engineer that was working on that was promoted to maintenance manager, so we lost a little staff there, so that slowed things down for us. But that project is now transitioning over also to our collection system group, kind of with the force main condition assessment program. So we expect as that group hires folks and gets up to speed, we're expecting that work to restart soon. All right, so on to design. Next up is the treatment plant projects and design. So the first one on the list is the dryer and seating modifications. I'll have a project highlight on that in a few slides, so I won't talk further about that here. For interceptors, you see the manhole rehab on the old west interceptor. That's shown in italics. That means it's kind of moved from one phase to the next. So that's now moved from planning to design. So many of the manholes included in that project are along Regent Street. So this is another project where we're working with the City of Madison as they design their Regent Street reconstruction, anticipating construction on that in 2027. So showing that one yellow, it's proving to be a little more involved than we were expecting. We knew we had to rehab a bunch of manholes along there, but as the city's plans unfold, it's clear we may have to do more work there. So they are replacing a very large box culvert, storm box culvert that goes down Regent Street, and in fact deepening the box culvert some. And so we need to get underneath that. So we may need to redo some of our crossings there that we weren't intending on doing. So stay tuned on that. We're working through that with the city. Next up on the list is the East Interceptor Rehab upstream of Pumping Station 7. We're working on design of that, which will involve some somewhat detailed traffic control, likely closure of Bridge Road by Pumping Station 7, so we can do bypassing. We're showing that in yellow. We're a little behind schedule on that one as well. Next, you'll see the Nine Springs Valley Interceptor capacity improvements projects. So phase 1 is the part just south of the plant, upstream of Pumping Station 11. On that, we're still having some challenging real estate conversations with the private property owner and the county. We think we've honed in on the preferred alignment, but we still have some issues to work out there. Phase 2 is the part along Highway 151, Verona Road corridor. You might recall we had a emergency repair there a couple years ago, so I'm happy to report that I believe as of today, that project is out posted for bid. So hopefully we'll see construction on that start either late this year or early next year. Last in the interceptor category is 2 rehab projects along the West Interceptor. The locations of those are what you're seeing in the pictures on the slide. So both of those are kind of in the campus area. You can see Camp Randall. That's that circle on the top lower left in the first slide. So there'll be complicated traffic control for those lining projects, lots of coordination. The lining part, probably not that hard, but the coordination and traffic control part is pretty involved. So as we've discussed previously, those have been on hold to prioritize other projects. But I am happy to report that I've just filled the 2 existing vacancies on our engineering team from when the maintenance manager was promoted and Anna moved off my team to planning. So we have 2 new engineers starting on the 31st of this month, and one of those engineers has some lining experience. So ding, 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 West Interceptor gets to go to her. So we're looking forward to getting that started again. Okay, the last item on the list is pumping stations and force mains, and that is the one listed there is Pumping Station 2 VFD replacements. We expect to have that design complete. We're underway on that, and we expect that to go out to bid around November. All right, so on to current construction projects. So at the treatment plant, there's 4 ongoing projects in teal with the number 4 there, you can see. For interceptors, those are shown in blue, and there's 2 ongoing projects. One of those is the Lower Badger Mill Creek Phase 6, far over to the far left. And then the other is the Southeast Interceptor relocation at the Yahara River, which, as you might guess, is over to the southeast on the Yahara River. So far right bottom. And then lastly, for pumping station projects, we have 3 projects shown in lime green. And you see one of those projects has 4 small dots. So there's three total, but one of them shows 4 small dots with asterisks on them. And those pumping station projects are Down to the lower left is Pumping Station 17 in Verona, and then the four smaller ones are the Pumping Station bar screens projects, which is, again, one project, and then the one at the far northeast end of Lake Monona, up in the far upper right, is Pumping Station 10. We'll talk about those projects a little bit more on the next slide here. So at the treatment plant, the four projects you'll see, you see liquid processing phase 2 in italics. That's now moved from design into construction. So we feel like we're at the end of the marathon, but we're just starting the race there. So we're excited to get working on that. We will be working, we're working on contracting with that project, and we have a pre-construction meeting scheduled, so we'll know a little bit more about the schedule unfolding once we meet with the contractor. But what we're anticipating is that it'll be very heavy on, as you recall, there's lots of equipment involved with that project, so it'll be very heavy on submittal review over the winter and fall, and we expect on-site work to start next spring. And then next there is, under treatment plan, is the W4 project. So if you look out the window, you can see Ahern's trailer. They are working on that inside the Headworks building right now. So that's great to finally get that one. That one took a long time to kind of get through the submittals process. So it's exciting that we're actually working on that now. Boots on the ground now, so that's great. Next is Lagoon Dike improvements, and I'll have a project highlight on that at the end, so I won't talk further here. For the next one is the electrical service equipment replacement. It's an exciting month for that one, as we're starting to bring some of that major electrical equipment that we've installed online. So again, that's replacing basically equipment that feeds the electrical to the entire plant. And so this month, we're doing startups on some of that equipment. We're coordinating with the manufacturer equipment reps who are on site and our own staff for lots of needed shutdowns to get that equipment turned on, basically. So then half of it will be operational, and then we can work on the other half because we have 2 redundant feeds to the plant, as you might recall. All right, and then on to interceptors. You see a new one there in italics. That's the Southeast Interceptor relocation at the Ohio River. That one is a DOT project that's at the very south end of our Southeast Interceptor. So right where Highway 51 crosses the Ohio River, the picture on the far right of the slide is showing that. And what is happening there is the DOT is widening the bridge over the Ohio River, and then as part of that, we need to move one of our structures out of the way, and then also relocate some of our pipe that conflicts with the retaining walls that the DOT is installing as part of that project. So we've been coordinating on this project for a couple of years now. The DOT was sort of like, oh, easy peasy, just move your one little manhole, and thought it would be relatively simple for us, and unfortunately it's not. That into that structure flows from Dunn Sanitary Number 3 and Kegonsa Sanitary District, and both of those entities have river crossings right there. And then also into that structure goes McFarland's Sanitary. So we've been coordinating with all of those entities on their various designs and their plans for, you know, what they're doing with their facilities that are in conflict with DOT as well. And then also coordinating with the DOT. So that has been ongoing now for a couple of years. So it's good that this is finally moving into the construction phase. So our work as part of that will happen this fall and winter in advance of the DOT's work.
I got a question on that. So I just want to verify the district owned interceptor stops north of the river.
Correct. Yep.
And then the town has 2 lines that come in from south of the river, across the river.
Yeah, the Kegonsa Sanitary District comes across the river, and then also Dunn Sanitary Number 3 comes across the river, and then McFarland comes from the...
Got it, yeah. Thank you.
All right, so, and then the next, also that the other picture on the slide is that complicated structure that I was talking about. You don't have to understand all the details other than to see that, ooh, it's not a very easy manhole to move. So, all right. Next on the list is interceptors. Whoops, we already went the first one. The second the second interceptor on the list is Lower Badger Mill Creek Interceptor Phase 6. That is wrapping up. We're kind of in the punch list phase for that one. I know we will probably have some reseeding that will need to happen on that one. You might recall before it got rainy, we had a drought over the summer, so I'm sure some of the restoration areas will need to be retouched before we're complete there. All right, and then on to pumping stations and force mains. So the pumping station 10 force main repair and assessment is listed next. So the actual force main repair is nearly complete. Then the next phase of that project is we had to install inside the station some infrastructure so that we can do insert the tool to inspect the force main. So that part is done. The actual inspection of the force main will happen in October. So that is getting close to being done as well. Next is pumping station bar screens. That one is yellow. It's moving a little slower than we would like. It's kind of stuck in the submittals phase and equipment procurement sort of phase. So not a lot of work happening at the stations yet on that one, other than addressing some of the gates in the station that need to be repaired in order to do the other work. So, and then last on the list is pumping station 17. Firm capacity, that one we're getting really close to done. We're kind of in the punch list phase with that one as well. All right, so on to projects completed this year. So here's the whole list. I'll just touch on the new ones that are added to the list since we talked last. So those are the ones in italics. Those are the sludge thickeners, number 1 and 2 drive and mechanism replacements, and the crosstown force main air release valve and saddle tap replacement. Both of those you saw acceptance of work items come through commission in July. Just a quick note on the picture on the drawing, that's Kennedy Road in Wanakee. So we repaved that as part of the Northeast Interceptor Wanakee Extension Capacity Improvement Project Phase 1 after we put our pipe underneath there. So that is looking good. All right, and then bids to date. So on to bids received this year. So there's 2 new ones added to the list since my last presentation. Those are liquid processing Phase 2 at a bid cost of almost $91 million. So we talked about that a lot at the last meeting at the end of July. And then the Southeast Interceptor at the Southeast Interceptor relocation at the Yahara River. That's a mouthful. So that again was bid by DOT. So we have a portion of that project, and then the DOT pays for a portion of that project. All right. Next up, just a couple of project highlights. So first, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the Lagoon Dikes project. As you saw a change order come through earlier on the consent calendar, so I wanted to tell you a little bit more about that. So you might recall that this project was sort of precipitated by the large rain events that we got back in 2018. So as a result of that regional flooding that happened at that time, Nine Springs Creek nearly overtopped our lagoons. And as you might recall, our lagoons, there's a picture on the top of where those are. So they're across, basically straight east of the plant across the street. So the picture to the lower right shows some of that emergency work that happened at that time. They were, what's happening in that picture is they were grouting the berm to stop some leaks through it. So after that event, we began planning a flood resilience project. The design of that was, I would say, complicated by EPA involvement and also less than favorable geotechnical conditions underneath that berm. So we needed a very lightweight design that would minimize future settlement of those very delicate berms. And you might recall that we have a different design for the south berm of Lagoon 2, so the red part on the top picture of the slide. That's, I'll say, the skinniest berm, and it has the softest soils below it. So for that, that berm, the design is a vinyl sheet pile wall. We bid that earlier this year, and installation of that is about halfway complete. So we started at the east end, and we've made our way kind of halfway along that berm. So what's the change order? well, we're using lightweight equipment to minimize the loads on the existing berm, and about, as I noted, we're about halfway through and we're meeting refusal. So that means we're not able to get the sheet piling inserted to the proper depth for the design. So the change order involves bringing a little bit larger, we need a bigger hammer essentially. So the change order involves bringing larger equipment out, but that also means more matting to distribute the loads because that berm is a little bit delicate. So we want to make sure that we don't damage it as we install the sheet piling. So the picture in the bottom left kind of shows what it looks like. Along there, there will be a kind of a cap that gets put on top of that, but it'll stick up from the berm just like that to provide for flood resilience. So assuming that all goes well with the new equipment that we're intending to use, we're now anticipating that work will get done in October rather than it was initially expected to be substantially complete this month. We're also working on finalizing the design for the next phase. So the green parts in the picture of the berm, that is a little bit lower tech. That's basically just lightweight fill kind of piled on top of the berm. So that one, we are getting the permitting and design finalized for that. We anticipate bidding that early next year. All right. Last but not least, I wanted to give you an update on the dryer and seating modifications project. So this is now at about 90% design. We hope this will be out to bid towards the end of the year. So what's this project? Again, this is a equipment replacement project. It's in our struvite harvesting building, which you can see right out the window over there. Some of you might recall what happens in that building. So we have a struvite harvesting process in there that was installed with the 11th edition around 2013. What that process does is essentially extract struvite from the filtrate that comes out of our solids processes at the plant. And what is struvite? It's essentially a mineral precipitate of magnesium, ammonium, and phosphate. And recovering it out of our process does two important things. So first, it makes a beneficial reuse byproduct, which is a dried granular product that can be used as fertilizer. We have a partnership with Ostara that takes that product. The second important thing that pulling that struvite out does is that by removing it on purpose, it helps minimize it forming deposits in pipes and other parts of the plant where we do not want it to precipitate. So it essentially reduces maintenance needed elsewhere in the process. So this project specifically, what is it? It's replacing the dryers and the equipment that go with them, such as the heaters and the cyclones. Since this equipment is now in poor repair and there's a lot of outages and shutdowns, and it takes a lot of maintenance to keep it limping along. So in the slide, you can see a picture of the dryers on the top slide. And as part of this, we'll also, when we replace those dryers, we'll also add washdown sprayers and additional access hatches in the dryers, which will make removal of struvite buildup that happens in those dryers easier. The other component of the project is improving the seeding process to precipitate the struvite. So the struvite is precipitated in reactors, and you can see in the bottom picture towards the upper right, the big silver funnel-looking thing is the reactor. So currently the seeding process is essentially manual. So we get small seeds or little small pieces of struvite basically from Ostara, and we have to manually hoist bags. You can see a bag in the foreground there. We have to manually hoist those and empty them into the reactor using an overhead crane setup. So the first problem with this is that Ostara is discontinuing or may have already discontinued providing that seeding material to us. The second problem is that the overhead process presents some safety challenges for our staff. So with this project, we will instead install a wet seeding system that will essentially capture the seed out of the process and recirculate it back into the reactor. And so we won't need to rely on Ostara for the seeding, and we'll have a more automated process that is safer for our staff. Again, we're at about 90% design for that equipment replacement, and we will expect to bid that out late this year. All right, and that is all I have for today. Happy to take any questions if you have them.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, go ahead, Beth.
I'm just curious, the vinyl sheeting that's going into the dikes out there, how long is that expected to last? Because with the winter, heat, cold, water, you know, how...
Yeah, it's got UV, you know, it's got UV resistance and all of that stuff. So it's not intended to be a temporary product. It's a long-term product. I think the design life is, I don't know, something like 50 years or something. I mean, we'll see. We haven't installed a project like this before, but it is used for, you know, I will say maritime applications, I guess. So it should have a good design life.
Okay. Thank you. I got a suggestion. Since we're going to be having new commissioners for January, and you probably can't fit on your current landscape table, but maybe doing another one with the project name and number, putting on the total project cost, who the consultant is, and who our project engineer is.
Okay.
So I think gives people kind of a one-click view as to how much we're dealing with in terms of project costs and consultants, who our lead project engineer is. I just think it would be helpful for new commissioners to see the scope of what we do.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. That will take us to committee reports. I know Ezra's committee has not met, the personnel subcommittee, right? And I don't think the finance committee's met, but so nobody has any reports. Ken, do you have something?
The performance review subcommittee is scheduled to meet Tuesday the 18th at 2 p.m.
Next week. Okay, so regulatory and legal. Paul?
Well, we are in that part here where not much is happening. So there's really no new updates, but I do want to highlight two things. One is, if you just skim through this report, 90+% of it is PFAS. And so that's going to continue to be front and center, both at the federal level and at the state level, and will continue. Right now, from what I've seen, you know, the district should be in pretty good shape with all of the standards, both the biosolids and surface water standards, but obviously something we'll be watching very closely. The second thing is, particularly in light of this week's events, just a reminder, this is an election year, and so the legislature will not be meeting until January. So we won't have to worry about additional legislative developments, which is a good thing.
Any questions for Paul? Thank you. Okay, future meeting schedules in the packet, future agenda topics, other business. Ken?
Commissioner Clark, motion to adjourn.
Second? By?
Second, Lankella.
Motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Lankella. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.